There might be something Jamestownish, Jamestownish like gonna happen with the Chaz because I was listening to someone explain Jamestown was a social distancing experiment, and Jim Jones had help. So he's culpable and everything. Some people might take that as saying that I'm saying that he didn't do it or he's not guilty, but culpability is a funny thing. You know what I mean? Like we might think there's a sinister motivation, but it might be a fractured psyche of somebody who's what I'm saying, like reaching out to their father or something, but instead it manifests as like a chain of like murders or some shit like that, like you killing women and stuff. Like it's a monstrous soul. Like look at this shit for what it is, right? Like because you want to say you're helping and everything, but it's like lives matter and everything. Well, if what about somebody who doesn't have is no longer sexually active and lost all their taste sensation, their taste buds, right? They're gonna kick your ass. Like you might think that's weird or strange and everything, but you gotta fucking look at like if it's like the it's still the brain. Like even when you say that's irreprehensible behavior, that you need to call it out, and they're like somebody is just like they're off, they're wrong, or they're sick in the head. Like it really is just it's something like polar. It's like a polarity. The polarities. So it's like imagine a gyro, but if it doesn't have that shape, it's gonna spin, wobble out. It's gonna collapse, right? It's gonna spin out and collapse, right? It won't hold form. So I was looking at the Chad, right? The Chaz, whatever this shit is called, and they were kicking the dude out, and the dude was like, "This, who doesn't matter, this motherfucker right here," and he's like, "I'll pull your panties down, boy." He didn't just say it just once. He kept saying it. He was like, "You can get them panties off you." Like, what the fuck? Nigga, you're not in jail anymore, nigga. Like, I don't care. It's sexy. It's the gangster. Gangster. Like in All About the Benjamins. It's like, oh, like, oh, so sexy. And you see this gangster curled up on the damn floor. Yeah. And there was another thing is that they got segregated farms. 3 days in, right? They're gonna have food riots pretty soon. They just poured soil on cardboard and then got some basil that they bought from the supermarket and planted that shit down in there. Yo, it's a LARP. I mean, none of this shit matters because it's a LARP. And they if they are not able to disengage before a blue ring forms around them, you know what I'm saying? Like they can right now. They're just privileged kids that got a slumber party being entertained by wingnuts having episodes and shit. They're flight risk, and they're not thinking things through. As a flight risk that can leave the autonomous area and go and buy food from a restaurant, right, and come back. They're just testing it out. They're like, oh, you know what? And we could savage black too because we could segregate our farms, not work with them. You know what I'm saying? We'll have plants on ours, but theirs will be empty. It'll be just savaging them. That's psychologically, right? Because that's how they are, dude. Look, man. I don't want to rationalize about it anymore. I like things the way that I've come to have them explained as best possible when you put things in the proper perspective with the simple terms. When you can come to, they're consistent. You know what I mean? Like uh, fascism is not a political ideology. It's it's like it's to prop up a political ideology. Like it works for a one political ideology or another, right? So if you like crush fascism, you're like you know what I'm saying. Like you think about it, like it really doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because in incompetence, right? Like socialism doesn't work because corruption. Fascism doesn't work because of incompetence. Globalism doesn't work because of human nature, right? Like I'm flexible and everything, but just the thing is that once something has been explained that that way that is consistent, it sticks. It sticks, and I can't waver. I can't waver until somebody explains it better, right? And then not only do I have no choice, right? But to you, you know to get right on the wavelength, right? But it's also the reason why you weren't on the wavelength. You know, kind of like that kind of also depends. Also, like the severity and whatever the degree, like that will depend on the context they give this shit. Anyways, I was already spent time. I've already done time as a leftist before, so that's why this shit don't work on me. That's I could still walk around. I can go walk through. They're not treat me the same way that they. You know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna feed off somebody's energy, but it's not gonna feed off mine because they already recognize. You know what I'm saying? They're not scared. They're not worried about me or anything. I don't have my reputation doesn't ring out or anything. It's just that it's like exposure to a hash. Like if you exposed to even a mild proponent of a hash, then everything is a hash. You know, it's ridiculous. It's like I've worked, I've been homeless, I'm not calling myself oppressed, and so they just won't fuck with me. They're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? So like, you have to notice that the symbols that they're clamoring around and everything, if it's not just that you have to not love Trump, you know what I mean? But you have to hate him as much as they do, because love and hate it's like one surrenders to wrath to become the true version of what it actually is, right? You receive wrath based on what you love. As a matter of fact, you can measure your devotion based on how much uh, wrath that you incur. Yeah. So it's a build up too, in terms of like when you're trying to navigate which things you will and won't do up to a point until it's been gone over, like basically reinforced that you should or shouldn't do, then you do the opposite, because everything is a has a its time and place, its appropriate time and place. Yeah.